right, welcome back to what I believe will be episode 7 of my Realignment 2028 series as the Oakland Athletics. Um, we are just after the All Star break, just after the draft, 48 and 41. Currently in first place in the AL West division, just by one game over the Las Vegas Blue Raiders. So we'll need to see if that success can continue going forward. And I've been trying to figure out exactly what I want to do. None of our, other than defense, which is definitely the strength of our team, we're first in all defensive categories. We haven't been particularly amazing in any of these other categories. We have, we're seventh in WAR. We're middle of the pack to mediocre in most other offensive categories, and then we're sixth and fifth in starting ERA, which is pretty decent. 10th in bullpen ERA. So, in terms of the trading deadline, what I'd like to do as we go into the organization, I've gone ahead and put on the trading block basically anyone that I think would have some kind of value. Anudis Mordon, sure, that's fine. Anyone that I think would have any kind of value that is over 25 on short-term deals, or I wouldn't mind losing too much. Headlining that would be our big pitching signings: Tyler Anderson, Trevor Rogers, Shane Baz. Also, Trey Gibson is potentially in that bunch as he's struggled a bit to start the year. He is 28 years old. He may not be part of our long-term plans. I don't necessarily know how the CPU is going to value all these players. And then Iriarte is a name that I know I got a lot of trade offers for him. It was either in the off season or during the trade deadline last year, where there's a lot of interest in him, which usually that means the CPU values him at least somewhat highly. I didn't get any good enough to actually trade him, but that could maybe be the case this year. Nolan Jones is a name too that he's kind of been our backup first base slash DH for us here. And he hasn't been bad, but he hasn't really been great either, especially for, $15 million a year. You would kind of hope that he'd put up some better offensive numbers than that. His OPS is down slightly from what he did with Houston, up from what he did with Washington, though. So I guess, this is probably who he is as a player, roughly. If we can get some value for him, I think that makes a lot of sense. And then some other minor league depth guys that maybe the CPU will want. Peyton Neals. So in terms of what we're looking to target, if we could find a somewhat legit reliever, that would be nice. Sinja's really our best reliever at the moment. McFarland has good FIP, but kind of a mediocre ERA. And then Baez is kind of the opposite. Great ERA, kind of mediocre FIP. So between those two guys, maybe we have one legit pitcher. I don't know. Maybe we have two. Shane Baz is, will I trade him? I'm not sure. We have 4 legit starters in Snelling, Montero, Bello, and Noth. We'll have 5 once Ferris comes back, but again, that's basically most of the season still. Gavin Jones is still 5 weeks away. He had been doing well, thrown the no-hitter, and then was also hitless in his start after that until he got hurt. So, he's definitely fighting to keep that spot. So starting pitching is not necessarily a huge need for us. You can never have too much starting pitching depth. So, I wouldn't turn down a good starter if I could get one, but the bullpen would probably be more of the focus on the pitching side of things. And then on the offensive side of things, Um, Probably look to target in terms of what we're weakest at a DH type. We need someone who could slug better than Nolan Jones probably. And then Sonoha has been a bit disappointing this year. He's ideally going to be our utility guy. We've been using him as a starting outfielder, and he just hasn't been great in that role with a sub 100 OPS plus. Um, yeah, so maybe look to get another outfielder. DH type catcher is another position where Garcia's been doing well. He's hot, but is that going to last throughout the rest of the season and potentially into a playoff run? I don't know. Um, I feel like catcher's a hard position to try and get though. So I'm gonna shop around here. I'm gonna see off camera if there's any deals that make sense. If we can grab guys that are close to um, arbitration or in their first year of arbitration, maybe that the CPU potentially is undervaluing or doesn't want to pay. Again, we have money galore right now. We are so far under budget that it's crazy, honestly. Um, yeah, we can afford to take on some more salary for sure, especially if we end up trading some of these guys and getting some of that salary off the books as well. So that might be another route we look to take. Is try to find some vets that are currently overpaid, eating their salary, maybe contracts that the CPU views as bad contracts, but we don't necessarily care, and try to pick up either those guys who would help be everyday contributors or see if we can get the CPU to package in some prospects with them, or both. So we got a lot of options here for trading. Yeah, I'll just try to do trades that make sense, um, and trades that would help make our team better, both in the short term and the long term. So I know that's, kind of obvious, right? Like you want every trade you make to make your team better, but uh, yeah, it's really when you're in a position like this where you kind of overperformed expectations, but also are still right on the cusp of making a playoff spot. It makes it really hard to say like, should we be buyers, sellers, like, and I think it just kind of is going to be a case by case thing where we might do a bit of both. So we'll need to see. We'll need to see what makes sense. Um, I'll shop around and I'll let you guys know if I find some good offers out there or offers I think make sense. So stay tuned. All right, so after doing some shopping, I think I have a trade here that makes a lot of sense for both sides. Both of us are in playoff contention. The Expos are, 1.5 games out of a wild card spot, competing for their division. They're in win now mode. We're in, well, not win now mode, but would like to make the playoffs mode. We're trading Trevor Rogers. They need pitching depth badly. They have no starting pitching. Really, if we take a look at their roster, I think their best pitcher is Chris Villeman by WAR, and he's having a good season, but he doesn't really look like an ace. Their pitching overall, I think, is not doing amazing. Yeah, in fact, they're quite bad. They're last or close to last in just about every pitching category, so they need pitching help. We have Trevor Rogers, who has been struggling lately, but could still be an upgrade for them, especially with the change of scenery. Peyton Neals as minor league depth for Johnny DeLuca, who's an interesting player. He limited sample size, has had a really great OPS so far. Very limited sample size. But what I really like about him is that if you take a look at our standings, And our splits versus left-handed pitching and right-handed pitching, I mean, that, we're 7 games above 500 against right-handed pitching, 500 against left-handed pitching. And that kind of vibes with what I have noticed from our offensive numbers so far. Um, we have four, well, not counting Montero, who, by the way, I think I forgot to mention this at the end of last episode, but he ended up being a call up for our kind of fill in spot there as a backup infielder. We have four guys with OPS plus over 100 against right-handed pitching, and also four against left-handed pitching. But you can see the bad numbers there are a lot worse. Like, we've got a bunch of guys that are 97, 92, 90, 87. It's like, okay, they're doing not great, but not awful. Whereas versus left-handed pitching, there's a lot worse numbers down here, especially as you get to some guys like Zanatello and Santana, who are starting to do to defense, not good offense. And then we'd like a legit someone who crushes lefties basically, and DeLuca seems to fit that bill. His ratings are better versus left-handed pitching, and his splits, again, very limited sample size, but OPS over 1,000 against left-handed pitching. So, and he looks like he spent most of his time at AAA, got called up, and he was putting up decent numbers at AAA too. So, if he does well, he's also arbitration eligible. We'd be able to keep him for $7 million, which might be an overpay given what he's done so far, but I don't hate it. And he can play both left and right field for us, which is kind of a position of need. Also included in the trade, Jackson Baumeister. He just looks like decent. They've been using him as a starter in the minors. I'd kind of be interested to see what he does in relief with the 75 potential, curveball. Could potentially start too, but control is not amazing. HRA is like right on the borderline there. I kind of just want to throw him in there as a reliever potentially for us and see how he does. And then Colton Ledbetter, more minor league outfield depth, which I feel like we could use given the amount of injuries that we've had so far. And he could potentially play in the majors as well. I mean, he's 27, but he looks decent and can play all three outfield positions. Probably wouldn't want him in center field unless I absolutely had to, but he could do it in a pinch. So we're also saving almost $3 million with this trade. I mean, again, money is not an object, but I have another trade in mind that would maybe require us taking on some salary. So, in that case, we want to shed a bit of salary, just to make sure our books stay balanced for the year. So, I'm going to go ahead and complete this trade. Say farewell to Trevor Rogers. All right, another trade here. Time to put some of that budget room to good use. We did just get more outfield depth in the last trade, so I'm looking to move Roger Ortega. He was a minor league signing. He's 26, almost 27 years old. Hasn't really done much at AA and AAA and even A ball this year. He's not too old, but not too young. I think the Twins at this point are quite bad. They're 34 and 55. They may be looking to shed some salary, get something back in return for Kyle Schwarber, who has declined. He is 36 years old. But he's, hopefully this season isn't an outlier. The last 2 seasons he's had not a great OPS plus. This year so far he's had an OPS plus 125, still only worth .9 WAR, projected for 1.6, but they've also been starting him at first base, even though with these ratings, like he is a full time DH. Like I don't know why you'd ever start him in the field ever. Yeah, so we have money to spare. They are still eating some of his salary too, so we'll only end up paying him about 15, 16, 17 million dollars next year, and he is on contract for next year. So if he works out, great. If not, we can move on from him. All it costs is Roger Ortega, who is more than minor league depth anyway, and a decent amount of money. But that gives us a potentially an upgrade at DH, and so yeah, I'll look to make that trade. I haven't looked at Minnesota's roster to see if there's anyone else that could maybe make sense as like a throw in here. Um, yeah, no, they probably wouldn't trade him anyway. We could get Henry Lane back. No, they don't want to get rid of him. Fair. Luke Kearshaw. Yeah, they're not gonna let him go, most likely. I mean, that gives me pause a little bit. He is 26. Um, hmm. I don't want to give up Zanatello though. I mean, that's our starting second baseman. Rainville, Jones, I want to keep. So Kearshaw's a name to watch, given that they're somewhat willing to let him go. But we'll just keep this trade as a one for one. Keep it simple for now. Maybe look to see if we can deal for Kearshaw. Yeah, let's see how Schwarber does for us. And one more trade here with us picking up Schwarber. We no longer really need Nolan Jones as our DH. And so we're going to shore up our bullpen here with Landon Rope, who is the big get here, putting up a sub-2 ERA for Cincinnati. Has been consistently good while he played for Kansas City. And yeah, good for 1.5 WAR, all coming in relief this year. He should slot in nicely as a setup guy for us, I think. Also, Chase Petty has put up decent numbers as a starter for them this year. He might also be a bullpen piece for us currently. Could potentially start as well. Just turned 26 at the beginning of the season. Yeah, we'll have to see kind of how he does. He is kind of more depth than anything else, and then Guevara is kind of a throw-in more than anything. He hasn't done much at AAA, but he's 24, can maybe still develop a little bit. And yeah, Nolan Jones, we also save, I guess, $5 million by trading him. So I'll go ahead and complete this trade. And I think that will be it for the moment. Let me go ahead and do some roster maneuvering, and I'll show you what our team looks like with our new additions. All right, so here is the first look at our new roster. Rotation top to bottom: Snelling, Montero, Bello, Noth, Anderson. That hasn't changed. Might shuffle the order around a little bit, but for now, I think those are going to be our 5 guys. Singe is still in at closer. Raup is either Rop or Raup. Slots in at our setup man, with Bios as our other setup man. Correa, Baez, McFarland as middle relief. Carlson Reed sticks at long relief, and Chase Petty has been added as long relief, and we'll throw him in as an emergency starting pitcher as well. Yeah, let's do it like that. His ratings do go up a bit when you change him from starter to relief. So I'm hopeful that he'll be effective for us. He could maybe even start if in a pinch if one of these guys gets injured or struggles. Against righties, we've got top to bottom Garcia starting at catcher, Kinney at first, Zanatello, Coffey, Santana, Mooney, Ciani, DeLuca slots in at starting right field against righties with Schwarber as our starting DH. And then against lefties, we've got Garcia, Kinney, Zanatello, Mooney, Santana. DeLuca slots in at left with Ciani in center. Griffin starts at right. He's got good splits against lefties. Hitting 120 OPS plus. And Schwarber has a good OPS despite batting left against lefties as well, so he's still our DH. He's our everyday DH, and he will not be doing any fielding whatsoever for us. And then the rest, Baumeister and Guevara, I'm going to try to pass through waivers and start in the minors. I do have a 40-man spot open, so I could throw one of them on there if they don't pass through. We'll have to see. And I think I'm good for trading now. As we get closer to the trade deadline, I might look to make some more moves depending on how this kind of goes. But we will see. I will have to see how the rest of July goes, so stay tuned for that. Alright, so I know I said I was done trading, but if this were like an E3 presentation from the past, we've got one more surprise for you. Luke Keashal is headed to the A's for a haul of players. I mean, I guess you'd consider this a haul. I think this was something that kind of caught my eye when we were trading for Schwarber. Keashal, I'll have to figure out the pronunciation of his name because I'll probably be saying it a lot coming up. But yeah, he, if we go to the Twins and look at their salaries, he is going to be owed roughly $7.9 million in arbitration next year and $12.5 the year after that. The Twins are pretty bad. I assume they're in a position where they don't really want to pay him that arbitration money. We're pretty good, and we are in a position where we don't mind paying him that. So he is 26. This is probably, he's got some unrealized potential. This is probably who we're going to get. He's almost 27, but he's putting up good numbers this season. And in fact, he's posted a positive OPS every season so far. I think a lot of it's due to the way they've used him as a fielder. I mean, negative 24 ZR as a second baseman is not the play. Negative 15 as a center fielder. Last year, negative 15 ZR as a center fielder. He doesn't have bad ratings, but he's clearly like a corner outfielder, or, you could play him at first. He shouldn't be that awful at second, I would think, but corner outfield is where he would likely play, and so those numbers should improve. And his hitting doesn't look bad at all either. He's got some stealing ability. He's stolen 20 bases so far this year, on pace for 36. So all in all, I think it's a solid get. And in terms of what it's costing us, I think the price makes sense too. Obviously, there's a lot of players here, but if you look at who we're actually trading, the biggest loss is Luis Guanipa. He is basically just outfield depth at this point. He's 23, so he has a bit of development left, but he, after trading for Keashal and yeah, trading for DeLuca, uh, outfield is pretty well set. Um, Sorry, as I'm recording this, it is actually the next day after the previous few trades that I did. So yeah, similarly, Sonoja, you know, we had been starting him in the outfield. He can kind of play every position, but has fallen off a little bit. His hitting hasn't been what it was last year. He's putting up negative WAR. I don't really mind losing him. Um, Chris Stewart's, not looking like he'll be much of anything in terms of a prospect, 23. And everyone else is, Encarnacion's 25, Williamson's 28. Trey Gibson hurts a bit too. He started the year in our rotation, but has been a bit underwhelming both in the MLB and in his rehab starts in Triple A. So, from the Twins' perspective, you get to dump some salary and get some guys who maybe with the change of scenery. Jacob Waters is another one who he's put up solid numbers in Triple A, but he's 28 as well, and isn't part of the long-term future of this team. I don't think most of these guys are. And so I think trading for a player like Keashal makes sense. We could even look to extend him in the offseason if it makes sense, and lock him down, for longer than those 2 years, then we'll have him in arbitration. So, I think this makes sense. I think this is a big, as close to a blockbuster trade as I'm willing to do. Yeah, I'm not looking to still mortgage any of our top prospects. Our Sharptons, our Rainvilles, Joneses. Um, yeah, the closest we are giving away is Guanipa, which I don't mind for a player that's just better than him and probably better than what he will end up being. But I guess time will tell on that one. So, yeah, we're going to make this trade, and that now I'll really be done trading, and we're going to see how things go. And we trade for an all-star. Great. And here's a quick look now at what our updated roster looks like with Keashal in here. He will be our starting left fielder against right-handed pitching, pushing Mooney to the bench. Mooney had decent OPS, but still sub 100. Obviously, Keashal's better batter and a better fielder there, since Mooney is primarily an infielder, although he can play a decent left field. Against left-handed pitching, I forgot that Connor Griffin, who has been our backup outfielder for most of the season, can actually play a decent third base as well, and his ratings back that up. So, has he played any? He's played one game, 2 innings at third base so far this season, but I think he's got some more in his future because I want to keep his bat in the lineup against lefties. So, again, Mooney gets pushed to the bench. Connor Griffin slots in at third, which lets Keashal start at left field again. So, yeah, it's. I think batting order wise, this looks fine as well. So we'll have to see what the new look A's do post out All-Star break. All right, mid-July update here, and wow is all I have to say. We have played 10 games since the All-Star break, and we are currently on a 14-game winning streak dating back to before the All-Star break, 10-0 in our last 10 games. Safe to say those trades have worked out pretty well so far. Landon Rupp has pitched in 6 games, 6 and 2/3 innings, hasn't given up an earned run yet. Pretty awesome. Petty, 2.45 ERA, 7 and a third. that's perfectly fine in a long relief role. Johnny DeLuca, 1.204 OPS and one WAR in 10 games with us so far. He's going crazy. Kyle Schwarber, again, putting up a better OPS than he did in Minnesota for us. That's what you want from your DH. The only new acquisition who hasn't quite been up to snuff is Keishal. That is how you say his last name, apparently. Keishal, which is a little disappointing, but, again, very small sample size, 10 games. And yeah, I think we are now firmly in the driver's seat for the AL West. In the middle of the start of those 10 games was a series against the Blue Raiders in which we swept them, and now as a result have a 5-game lead in the division, and would be well positioned to make it as a wild card team as well if we fall off a bit, but I'd like to make it in as a division winner. So let's keep going. I don't see the need to make any more trades at the moment. Again, barring any injuries, I hate to even mention that, but yeah, we had a few minor ones in the middle of that. Snelling missed a week with an injury. He didn't even go on the IL though, and Xanatel had like a day-to-day injury as well for a few days. So, nothing major, but worth keeping an eye on. So, yeah, and Rope is gunning for that closer job, but Sinja's still, pitching at an elite level. So, yeah, that's his to lose at this point. But I'm very, very happy with our trades so far. Yeah, I'll go ahead and keep going to the trade deadline. Likely no more trades until then, though, unless there's injuries. I'll obviously let you know. All right, we are officially to the trading deadline. 60-46. Fallen off a little bit. You can see we're 5-5 in our last 10. That's overlapping with some of the games that I had talked about in the last update. I think we are 2-7. All right, so we are, yeah. I think I recorded this right before we lost our streak, and yeah, we are 2-5 in our last 7. Still with today's game yet to play, but again, I think we're fine. Raup still doing well. He had a little bit of a rough outing in the last game, but still doing well overall. And yeah, kind of the same deal all around. Keishal still struggling a little bit. Schwarber cooled off a little bit too. The only person who hasn't let up at all is DeLuca, who is just on an absolute tear. Still a 1.2 OPS, 1.6 WAR over 17 games, which is just absurd. Like, he's putting up as much WAR in 17 games as some of our guys have put up all season. So, yeah, currently second in the team in WAR when you take his entire season overall, behind Santana, and most of Santana's value comes from his fielding. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and do the trading deadline here live on stream, and we'll see if there's any interesting trades. This one is not particularly interesting. Yeah, I'm not trading a reliever for Eddie Rainville, who, by the way, I did bump him to A-ball just so he can get a little bit more playing time. I don't know if I'm going to keep him at A-ball or start him at Rookie League ball again next season. I mean, we've got a few of our prospects playing in either A or high A. Strapadopoulos is at A+, currently has yet to give up an earned run over 10 innings. he might get bumped up to double A before the season's said and done. Same with Dingus. I mean, he's also doing quite well at high A. Could probably play at double A. And then Kevin Davison, who was our second round pick, I have him starting in A ball. If Rookie League Ball was playing, I'd probably start him there, but he's got ratings that are high enough to play in A, and he's proven it so far with a 2.35 ERA, so I think I'm going to leave him there for now. And Lane Jr.'s here. It was our ninth round pick. He's struggling so far. Anthony Pack Jr., he was a pick from last year, but struggling so far. And Ramirez, yeah, we got him in a trade. All right, I think that's it for the guys from this year's draft. Everyone else from this year's draft will be starting in Rookie League Ball. Yeah, I just don't want to put them in A ball yet. Yeah, Thornton could maybe play in A. Maybe. I'll think about that. Anyway, yeah, we're in the middle of the trade deadline. As I sum up our minor leagues, yeah, and there's been a few offers that they've sent me. None of them are particularly enticing. Bryce Miller looks decent, but I'm not trading Alex Mooney for him. Mooney's had a solid season, not spectacular, but solid, and he's kind of, now that Sonoja's gone, our utility guy who can play a variety of different positions. Yeah, I don't really want to trade him. I would say we don't have any glaring needs either, except for maybe catcher, if there's an elite catcher out there, which, I mean, I could check and see, but I highly doubt it. Yeah, Shea Langoliers. I mean, yeah, Andy's on the last year of his deal. Like, I'm not looking to trade for a catcher that's on an expiring deal. Oh, sorry for the yawn. Oh my god. Okay. All right. Continue trading deadline. All right. What else we got here? The Tigers. Griffin Jacks. That's an interesting name. And he is on a 2-year deal. He was a free agent. Okay. And Brian Barnes, who looks like a decent prospect, and they want Jose Rosas. Oh, and they're sending us Rosas for Cerda. I mean, that's not awful, but it's also like, I don't know. Cerda is our backup catcher, and I don't really. I mean, it's tempting. You know, Griffin Jacks would shore up our bullpen a little bit. Let's see kind of what, if we can discuss this, if there's any other guys they're interested in. Yeah, I mean, just the Tigers are win now. Okay, and they're 52 and 51, so that tracks. Sometimes the CPU will set teams to win now, and they're, in under 500, and it doesn't quite make sense. Yeah. Coffee would potentially be an interesting trade. That's Jax we'd have potentially for a second season, plus 2 prospects. What about just Jax? What would he cost? Hanson. I think I want to keep him just for depth purposes at the moment. Mooney. Rinders. Sawinski. I mean, Zawinski's only on a 1 year deal. Like, that no one would make this trade in real life, so I'm not going to make it. You're not going to trade for a guy who is on an expiring contract. Trade away one of your best relievers for that. Like, that doesn't make sense. Gonna try to keep it at least like at a level that makes sense. All right, what if I throw in like Tyler Anderson? Same offer that doesn't move the needle at all. Holman, Jones, yeah, these are all names that I don't really want to give up. But it's interesting. Okay. I didn't even look at the Giants' proposal. They want Beeks and Huntingford. Still, yeah, no, that's gonna be a no from me, dog. The Tigers are the closest to actually giving me a decent offer, but it's not a deal that we need to make. And even then, Jax has been good, but not great, I would say. Let's look at his FIP as well. I mean, his FIP is good. 2.52 FIP minus of 63. All right. Did we get any more offers? No. Is Colorado shopping Edwin Ramirez? I mean, if they are, I'd be interested. Depending on the price. Yeah, okay. Who knows if they are. Yeah, that's a no. Okay, so Griffin Jax. Going back to this. All right, let's say I did like Renders, and then let's throw in another random prospect, kind of see who they value. Okay, they're just willing to throw in DeCaro with that trade. No, that's even more interesting. Renders. Okay. All right. If I shop Renders around, like what? What is Detroit offering for him? Buechele, Friedkin, Garcia, Pesca, Barnes. Barnes was the name that was in that other trade. Garcia looks fine. Buechele, he's injured, but otherwise looks fine. So, I mean, I like Friedkin too. Okay. All right, so let's go back here. And what if I throw in Friedkin? No, but they're interested. Buechele they will take. So I could trade Renders for Jax and 2 pitching prospects, and then I lose him, but he's almost 24 already. Putting up solid numbers in AA. Mediocre numbers in AAA. Okay. I mean, I think this trade makes sense. Like, I don't know if it necessarily makes sense for the Tigers. I mean, they might just be. Nah, they're not particularly lacking it in. I mean, they might need just depth or want to play him at shortstop, maybe. Like, who do they have starting at shortstop? Do I have time to check? Yes, I do. They have Danny Andrade. Yeah, okay. He's been doing pretty bad for them. All right. So, like, I'm trying to real time evaluate, like, I imagine they'll take Rinders up, use him as either depth or their starting short stop, giving up jacks and two relief pitchers to do that. I mean, I think I definitely get the better end of this deal. Um, you know, there's also like the fact that he's getting paid $6 million, so maybe they just want to shed some salary while winning. I don't know. It's a weird trade, but I think I can justify it. All right. And then yeah, there's no other trades I'm particularly interested in. Let's just use this time to figure out who gets sent down, and it's gonna be Correa, I believe, because he's got options and has the worst FIP on the team. Noth is a Rule 5 pick. Reed has been not great either. I think he's also a Rule 5 pick. Yeah, he is. So, yeah, it'll be Correa. And Griffin Jacks will come in, and yeah, his underlying FIP's really good. So we're going to move Bias to middle relief and use him as our like other setup guy, and then Jax will be set up 6th or later or middle relief. All right. So with that, our bullpen gets a little better, I think. We lose a little bit of minor league depth, but I'm okay with that. All right. Did end up making one more deal at the deadline. And if we finish today, we will officially be in August. Sinja wins Pitcher of the Month. Very nice. Ooh, and you love to see this. Strapadopoulos. His current control drops from 40 to 35. Don't necessarily love that, but velocity improvement, potential velocity improvement, potential went up to 5 stars, potential stuff went up. That is all good stuff. And, he's pitching lights out so far in A+, so keep it up. Straps. Nate Britton is not going to be in our minors anymore. All right. And we did win versus San Diego. Mooney, Schwerber. Yeah. Okay, so we are 61-46 at August 1st. I think we're well positioned to potentially make the playoffs. We got a 4-game lead over the Blue Raiders, and not a whole lot else to say or look forward to really in August until September 1st, when we'll expand the roster to 30. That will be guys who are either young and I want to get more major league experience, or guys that I think will help us win. Ideally both. But for sure, someone like Brian Bautista, who's done really well, is 25, and I want to get in the majors with some playing time. He'll be brought up. Probably bring up Chorio for more depth because he's had a good season in AAA. We'll discuss that when we get there. So, see you maybe in September. We'll see. All right, it is now September 1st, and we are 80-54. As you can see, we had a good September. August, sorry. 19-8. 19-7 in July, 19-8 in August, which, when I started the year, I said I would have been happy to be 500, and here we are, 20 plus games over 500. So, needless to say, much, much better season than I expected. And to make things even better, we've kind of run away with the division as the Blue Raiders have fallen off. We're 11 games ahead. Magic number is 18. And Jackson Ferris, about 2 weeks away from coming back from injury. So that is also great news as we get our ace from last season back. Look to work him back slowly and carefully because our pitching rotation is doing quite well, as you can see. Chase Petty, surprisingly, Josh Noth started to struggle and has kind of continued to struggle, even in long relief. So Petty slotted in as the fifth starter, and he has been outstanding. What 1.6 WAR, not what I expected given his numbers from Cincinnati, but his FIP was good, his underlying numbers. So maybe I shouldn't be that surprised by that. He's even potentially out pitching Snelling right now. Could be our number one starter going into the playoffs. We'll see. Anderson has done so well, in fact, that I didn't trade him and offered him a $4 million extension for next year. He's willing to take less money to come back for another year, sure. And if he declines again, he's 40 years old. That's probably going to happen. Not a huge deal. Gavin Jones is back from injury, pitching all right. Good enough to be our fifth starter at the moment. And everyone else here, let's see. DeLuca has cooled off a bit, still putting up very solid numbers though. And Montero, surprisingly, pretty limited appearances, but he's slotting in nicely as a guy who was kind of, a fill-in inclusion in this Yankees trade as our backup infielder, slash maybe kind of utility guy. Mooney, as bad as fallen off. He also kind of slots in that role. Schwarber, his bat has cooled off a bit more than I would have liked. Hopefully that OPS gets back up above 100. That's not what I want to see from my everyday DH. Keishal, ditto. He over 181 plate appearances, still hasn't put it together at the plate. At least fielding wise, he's doing much better than he was in Minnesota, where they had him playing center field. Yeah, I don't know. The idea was hopefully to bring him in and maybe look to extend him. And the way he's been playing, it might be an arbitration offer and kind of see how that next season goes, kind of thing. Which is, that was supposed to be our blockbuster get. I do like this view in decision history. You can see your best trades by WAR, worst trades by WAR, which some of them. This one, Kevin Kelly, right? Like, most of the guys we got in that Kevin Kelly trade are prospects who have not seen any major league playing time. So, of course, Kevin Kelly putting up decent numbers for Baltimore. I have, quote unquote, lost that trade. But you can see we got Gavin Jones, who's already put up .7 WAR. And then hopefully, if any of these guys develop to their potential, we could end up winning that trade. But you can see, the guys that we've traded to Minnesota for Keishal, Sonoja really turned his season around, has put up great numbers for them, similar to what he put up for us last year. And Gibson also pitching well, again, better for them than he did for us. And Waters, he's putting up mediocre numbers. That's kind of what I expected. Williamson 0.7 WAR. Yeah. So it's like none of these guys are, lighting the world on fire or anything, but it is my worst trade by WAR at the moment, which is not saying much given that this is only the second season. But you could also see our greatest acquisitions. Uh, yeah. Santana has been our best player by WAR so far, followed very closely behind by Cooper Kinney. Snelling Ferris is fourth, despite not playing at all this season. I think that's worth noting. Mooney, Montero, yeah, these are not. None of these guys are incredibly surprising, except for maybe Christian Serda, who got called up as an injury fill-in and has basically become our starting catcher. It's a right now it's a platoon between Serda and um, Garcia because they are both doing quite well. But yeah, and our greatest losses, a lot of these guys, James Gonzalez, like Kevin Kelly was a trade, but like Gonzalez and River Ryan, they were on our team for all of 2 days. I claimed them off of waivers, and then they got claimed when I tried to put them back on waivers. So really, these aren't guys that I lost. They're just guys that I didn't end up keeping. I I think there's a difference there. All right. Anyway, September 1st, which means we've got call ups to do to fill our roster to 30 players. I already pretty much know who I'm calling up. It's going to be Jose Bello. He got sent down when Jones got brought back from injury just because he was kind of the odd man out in the rotation, but I want him to keep pitching in the majors and getting that experience. And then, Bautista. I should have added him to the roster. Is it too late to do that? I think it is. Damn. I meant to add him. Yeah, he's done well, but there's also been several other pitchers who arguably have done better than him. Guys like Juan Corella, who have put up 3.8 WAR, higher ERA, but their FIP is better, and could slot in quite well as a reliever. Guys like Iriarte, who has had very limited experience at the major league level for us this season. He's still on the roster, on the 40-man roster, I should say. So I thought I knew who that second call up for pitching was going to be. Let's go ahead and call it Bello, because that's definitely going to be one. Corella is on the 40-man, and I think he's going to be the pick just because I want to see what he can do. Yeah. Okay. Now, batter-wise, I do know who I want to pick. It's our two WAR leaders in AAA this season, Chorio and Torin, who will play backup outfield and infield respectively. Burkholder's there waiting in the wings as well. He's on the 40-man. If we need another outfielder, Luke Hansen has had a pretty decent season. He did pretty well for the Yankees before coming over here. Has cooled off a little bit, but can play every infield position decently well. I probably wouldn't play him at shortstop, but yeah, he's also on the 40-man if we need him. So Chorio and Torin are coming up as well. And then quick prospect update. Strapadopoulos has moved up to Double-A and continued dealing, so he'll likely stay there to finish the season and also start next season. Dingus has done well enough in A+, I think, to start in Double-A. I mean, I think he'll get one start in Double-A this season, maybe, with how the season has broken down. Ditto Vera, who we got in a trade from the Yankees. And then Zimmerman will likely move up to High A to start next season. I can do this off camera though. Like, Jesus had a great offensive season. Not very much WAR, but I think that's just because his fielding is atrocious right now. hopefully we can get him in the dev lab and get some of those fielding ratings up so that he can be a more well-rounded player to match his great offense. Yeah, so pitching wise, I'm gonna stick with the rotation we have. Corella and Bello, I think I'll just slot them in at long relief. No reason to shake things up too dramatically, I think. Corella, maybe I will, let's see, if he's got more potential as a reliever, which he kind of does, I'll put him in middle relief and long relief as a secondary. And then, yeah, we'll slot in Torin as our backup to the backup for shortstop and second base. And Choria will be our third outfielder. So, hopefully they'll get a little bit of playing time here and there. Against lefties. Mooney. Yeah, and I actually have Montero starting every fifth game against lefties just because his numbers have been great. Might even bump that up to, well, Zanatello does well against lefties too. So, yeah, we'll just keep things as they are. All right. Yeah, we're going to keep simming, and we'll see how this goes. Alrighty, update here. Injury update, both good and bad. The good news is Jackson Ferris finally ready to come back. Given that minor leagues are not in session anymore, I will be bringing him just straight back to my active roster. The bad news is that Zanatello has an injury, and I don't know how serious it is yet, so I guess we'll see that in just a second. Let's see. I do need to waive someone or okay, I think I'm going to demote Bello just because Corella would have to be waived, and I want to waive Keisel instead because he's not going to be doing anything. All right, Jackson Ferris going in here, and we'll have him pitch the next game and throw, 70 pitches. Ease him back. Okay. Just a 3-week injury for Zanatello. That's not the worst. That brings him back. He would potentially miss the beginning of the playoffs. So we're going to bring up Luke Hansen to be our backup infielder. And I guess Christopher Torin will slot in as our starting second baseman for now. We'll see how he does. Yeah, why not? He's just as good, if not a better defender. And that's why he's here. So he will be our second baseman and backup shortstop. In case you're curious, our magic number is now 1. So let's see here. Cooper Kinney. All right. At this point in the season, any even minimal injuries, I don't want them playing through because I don't know if you saw in that brief update, but our magic number is 0, which means we now are officially in the playoffs. Officially won the division and only a few games behind the Orioles and the Red Sox for the best record in baseball, which is crazy. I didn't think that was going to happen this season, but I'm very pleasantly surprised. Yeah. And let's see here. Oh, yeah, the CPU started. a different pitcher instead. Let's just do this because I want. Oh wait, no, it did pitch Jackson Ferris. That was in the game before. Okay, never mind. Yeah, he's gonna ease his way back here. We are going to. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna go into my prevent injury mode, which is just going to be, limiting the number of pitches on all of my pitchers, making sure all of my starters have regular rest at the end of the season, because preventing injury is the most important thing right now. Yeah, now that we have clinched a playoff spot. So let's go ahead and get through the end of the season, and we'll see what we finish with. 100 games is a real possibility. 100 wins. So we'll see where we end up. Well, we didn't escape September without any injuries. Cutter Coffee out for 4 weeks, which means he would probably miss most of the playoffs. Yeah, not great. We'll go ahead and call up Griffin Burkholder to get not his first major league playing time, I guess. He got a little bit with KC, but yeah. We'll have to figure out. I guess Mooney will slot in as our starting third baseman again. Yeah. And no other adjustments needed. All right. Onward. And we couldn't make it through September again. Christopher Torrin out 1 to 2 weeks with a sprained ankle. I'm not going to put him on the IL for this just because I would want him back as soon as possible, and that could potentially be less than 10 days. So, yeah, we'll just go ahead and I don't even know who they have. Mooney playing second, which is probably what I'd do. But yeah, let's go ahead and finish the regular season. All right. All right, let's do a regular season recap here. We finished the year 95 and 67, which is, about 30 games, 30 more wins than I expected from this team. Well, 20 more wins. Yeah, it's a great season. And we won the division, won it handily. No one else in our division finished above 500. So I will take that every time. Across the rest of the league, the Boston Red Sox, best team in the majors, by 1 game over the Orioles, who take the first wild card spot with 101 wins. That's rough for them. The Yankees also take the second wild card spot with 97 wins, which would have been good enough to win any other division in baseball. What an absolutely stacked division this year. AL Midwest, on the other hand, the Detroit Tigers squeak in with an 82 and 80 record. I think we did. No, we didn't end up trading with them, I think. And then the Rangers win the AL South, 95 and 67. I mean, they're still a very good team. Still going to be very dangerous in the playoffs. In the NL, the Nationals win the NL East over the Braves, who make it in as a wild card. The Cubs win the NL Central. Who's still on the Cubs that I would... They have Suzuki playing first now. That's interesting. All right. And still Dansby. Oh, Dansby's splitting some time at first base now too, apparently, even though he still has a 65 rating at shortstop. I don't quite get that, but okay, sure. Anyway, the Dodgers, Padres, and Giants finish in a 3-way tie for the NL West. And I think I did turn on tiebreaker games, so I'll be interested to see how that goes. One of those teams will win the division, and one of them will make it as a wild card, and one of them will be going home with an 87 and 75 record. That's brutal. And the Reds win the NL Atlantic with 85 wins. Yeah, the three-way tie though. That's something. I want to see what ends up happening there. And looking at our team overall for the season, obviously lots of injuries. I think that's pretty standard OOTP season. Unfortunately, some of ours came right at the end of the season. Hopefully we'll get Zanatello and Torrin back for the playoffs, or at least for some of these series. Zanatello now has an uncertain return date, which I don't love. We had a great record despite not finishing top of the league in most categories. Our batting WAR was eighth. Our most of our offensive categories were just okay. Starting ERA, bullpen ERA, seventh, eighth. Really, where we shine is our defensive efficiency, zone rating, errors. We were top of the league there. Pitching wise, if we sort by WAR, Chase Petty, both in terms of, well, if you look at just what he did for us, he finished with 2.5 WAR, 4.4 overall for the season. I think you could make a strong case that he was our best pitcher, which is crazy to say. He may be starting game one for us in the playoffs. It's going to be either him or Robbie Snelling, who was our ace while Jackson Ferris was out. I'll still have to figure out what to do with Jackson Ferris come playoffs because, he's still coming back from injury. I assume still has a lot of rest to work off. Do I trust him as a starter in the playoffs? Not a game one starter. I might look to use him as like a stopper out of the bullpen. I think that role would make a lot of sense where you could get a lot of good use out of him without relying on him as a starter necessarily. And I think there's going to be one or two, I went with a 6-man rotation at the end of the year to try and reduce injuries, which worked for my pitching staff, but then, not so much for the rest of my team. Montero finished third in pitching WAR. He had a good season, sub 4 ERA. This is perfectly good season. I am perfectly happy with that. Tyler Anderson pitched well enough to earn a second contract from me. Bringing him back next year, we'll see if he does even close to that. Landon Rop, however you want to say his last name. He finished the year with 1.5 WAR, 2.38 ERA. 2.86 just with us, and had negative WAR with us, which doesn't quite make sense to me. But anyway, he's been one of our best relievers. Griffin Jacks had kind of a rough start for us, I think, but kind of turned it around. Pretty good ERA. And McFarland, kind of an underappreciated by me reliever throughout the season. He had a solid season, and then Sinja, has fallen off in WAR. He blew some saves, it looks like, towards the end of the season, but still finished with 52 saves on the year, and that's great for your closer. The underlying numbers, you could make an argument based on like FIP that he is potentially not as good as his numbers would say, as his ERA would say. But I mean, he's been our closer the whole year. I think I'll stick with him as my closer in the playoffs. We'll rely on likely him and Rope and Jax with the side of McFarland. Shane Baz had ended up having a decent year. And yeah, I don't think I mentioned Gavin Jones either. He was our, fourth or fifth starter for most of the year. Dealt with some injuries, but still had a solid season overall. And then some guys near the bottom here. Corella was kind of a late season ad. He will not be on our playoff roster this year with a 6.14 ERA. But it was worth a try. Henry Baez, he'll be on there. He's one where he's got a great ERA, not so great FIP, so I don't know how that's going to work out. Carlson Reed was a Rule 5 pick, and so stayed on our roster because of that. Maybe didn't need to necessarily, but we had him in a long relief role for most of the season, so I wasn't too concerned there. For batters, Adrian Santana ended up leading our team in WAR with 3.6, which is not the highest WAR I'd hope for from our batters, but yeah, I'm still happy with that overall for him this season. I mean, that's more WAR than he finished with last year, although he did play the first month or so of the season in the minors last year, so that doesn't help. But yeah, good year for him. Keyshaw ended up finishing with decent numbers. He's started to turn it on some more. Hopefully that will continue into the playoffs. DeLuca finished with great numbers. I mean, for him, this is pretty much everything I could have hoped for when trading for him. And again, hopefully this continues into the playoffs. Cooper Kinney, I think, cooled off a little bit, but still very solid hitter. Actually, his potential has gone up slightly as well, which is interesting. I don't know if he's actually going to, reach that potential at age 26, but we'll see. Siani, again, a 2-WAR season. Actually finished with more WAR this season than he did last year for the White Sox. Buoyed by a 9.0 ZR. I don't know if that's Gold Glove worthy, but it's definitely good enough to be my starting center fielder. Connor Griffin, solid year. Played most of the year as a backup, but saw a decent amount of playing time as well. And then Mooney's kind of our pseudo utility player. Ended up starting 3 different positions, 20 plus games at 3 different positions this year. So didn't do great at left field fielding wise, but is more than passable at second and third. So with both of our starting second baseman hurt, that being Zanatello, who had a 2.7 WAR season, which is awesome. Good. And then Torin got hurt. Cutter Coffee also got hurt at the end of the year. He was doing pretty well at third base for us, and so our infield is going to kind of be a patchwork here for the playoffs, but that's why I add some of these depth guys on here. Your guys like where even are they? Luke Hansen was who I was thinking of. I mean, he's not who you want starting for you in the playoffs, but he is a guy. And then Montero, let's see if he can step it up in the playoffs. He cooled off a little bit, but he will be, I think, on the playoff roster kind of by default. Our catchers both did decently well. Serta cooled off a little bit. I mean, there was one point when I think I considered trading him as part of the, trade to get Griffin Jacks and a handful of other prospects, but I think it was worth keeping him, just given the depth I have at catcher, and Garcia will likely be starting going into the playoffs. Schwarber fell off for us, unfortunately. And he has started to decline a little bit too, which I don't love. We are paying him for another year. Not his full salary, thankfully, but he I'm hopeful that he will be playoff Schwarber, which, for the Cubs, he was great in their 2016 run. Granted, in this season, that would have been 13 years ago. So, yeah, I don't know how much playoff magic he has left in him, but we'll have to see. And yeah, we'll also have to see um, who we will be playing in the playoffs. So let's go ahead and sim to here. Playoffs are about to begin, and there should be a way to see our playoff matchups. I don't believe we would have gotten a bye. Maybe we did. I know there used to be a screen out of here that you could just see the playoff history. Maybe it just hasn't generated it yet. Okay. There we okay. Yeah. For some reason. It took 2 days to do it. That weird. Okay. Oh, that's right. I know why it took 2 days to do it. That's because we had our extra games to go through. So in league news, yeah, so I think what we had to do was there was a game between the Dodgers and the Dodgers and the Giants, followed by a game between the Dodgers and or the Padres and the Giants for who would win the division and who would be a wild card team. I could be wrong. Let me see here. Yeah. Oh, flip flop that. But yeah, so the Padres beat the Giants and they beat the Dodgers. So I guess why did they even have to play the Dodgers? Unless that was not. I don't know. I don't know how the tiebreaker worked out there. If you know in the comments, let me know. It seems like the Dodgers potentially getting screwed here, maybe. I don't. Okay, so here they all had to play each other once, it looks like. So the Giants lost to the Padres here and then beat the Dodgers. And so, because the Padres beat both teams, they are champions of the division. The Giants beat the Dodgers head to head, so they would then be the wild card team over the Dodgers who missed the playoffs. I think is how it worked out. Um, kind of a weird scenario with the three-way tie there and making tiebreaker games happen. But anyway, playoff coverage. Let's see here. So the playoff tree, yeah, we don't get the bye, unfortunately. Oh, wow. So it actually came down to, I think, head-to-head tiebreakers then. So if we go to Oakland and yeah, the Rangers went 5-4 against us. So one game against the Rangers decided that. I think otherwise we would have had a first round bye potentially, which is crazy. Instead, we are stuck facing the 97 win New York Yankees in the first round of the playoffs. Could have been worse. We could be facing the other wild card team, the 100 win Orioles, 101 win Orioles. So, um, yeah, and who the Yankees have Kyle Tucker now too. That's brutal. Okay, so in this sim, Kyle Tucker did not re-sign with the Cubs and instead went to the Yankees, signing a 5 year, $165 million contract. I mean, I could see that happening. Yeah, it's a pretty stacked team. Yeah, and their pitching is stacked too. Max Fried, Ben Hess, who is a real life prospect, doing very well. Arguably their ace right now. I mean, unless Fried's still putting up great numbers too, though. At age 35, Chris Bubich, also very good. Okay, so we have a just a 3 game series. We do, by virtue of winning our division, all 3 games will be in Oakland, so that's great. But we'll have to see who makes our playoff roster, who's going to be healthy for our playoff roster. Will Torin be able to play? Will Zanatella be able to play? I'm not sure. Um, yeah, I'll go over the playoff roster at the start of the next episode as we go into the 2029 playoffs. I will be actually playing each of those games individually, still simming through, um, making managerial decisions, but otherwise, yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. I'm excited that our expansion team made the playoffs already in the second year of existence. That's you know a great season. So I think regardless of how the playoffs go, but I'd love to win the whole thing. So you never know with the MLB playoffs. Join us next time where we try to win the whole thing. Yeah. I'll see you later.